Hey kiddos, in this video I will be reading 3 more chapters in our book Haunted Castle on Hallows Eve. If you remember where we left off, the invisible girl had just wrote on the mirror and told them that the Raven King had stolen the Diamond of Destiny, and Teddy says, oh, that's just what I feared. And so we're going to figure out now why that's scary. Okay, so if you're following along at home, we are on chapter 7, which begins on page 55. If you don't have a book at home, sit back, get cozy, and listen carefully. Chapter 7 is called 1, 2, 3. So that's why Merlin sent for those books, said Teddy. What books? Who's the Raven King? Said Jack. Now it all makes sense, said Teddy. Who's the Raven King? Said Jack. But I wonder how he found the Diamond of Destiny, said Teddy. Teddy, who's the Raven King? Jack nearly shouted. He's a terrifying creature who comes from the other world, said Teddy. I read all about him in one of the books I brought Merlin from Morgan's library. As a boy, the Raven King longed to be a bird so he could fly. He stole a spell from the Wizard of Winter, but he didn't have the magic to make it work properly. So the spell only worked halfway, and it made him half bird and half human. Oh man, said Jack. Now he commands a huge army of ravens who treat him as their king, said Teddy. Why would he steal the Diamond of Destiny? Asked Annie. I don't know, said Teddy, but we must get it back for the sake of Camelot's future. And for these ghost kids too, said Annie, and the ghost dog. She looked around the room. Don't worry, she called. We will help all of you. We'll get the Diamond of Destiny back. We will? Asked Jack. How? We don't know where this crazy raven man lives or anything. Look, more writing, whispered Teddy. She heard you. 3 more words slowly appeared in the mirror dust. Nest on mountaintop. Jack felt a cold whoosh by him again. The curtain covering the window moved aside. A patch of moonlight shone on the floor. Jack, Annie, and Teddy walked to the window and looked out. In the distance, a craggy mountain rose into the moonlit sky. Ah, whispered Teddy. So there dwells the Raven King. I had thought his nest was in the other world. It might as well be, said Jack. We'll never be able to get to the top of that mountain. Aye, said Teddy. No mere mortal can climb that steep rock. How will we get the diamond back? Cried Annie. I said no mere mortal, said Teddy. I am more than mortal, remember? I am a sorcerer. Yeah, but your rhymes never work, said Annie. True, but I have more than just rhymes, said Teddy. He pulled a twig out of his pocket. See? What's that? Said Jack. 'Tis an enchanted hazel twig, said Teddy. Its magic is strong enough to change me into anything I want. Oh, wow, said Annie. Did Morgan give you that? Asked Jack. No, said Teddy. Morgan and Merlin don't even know I have it. A forest sprite, a cousin of my mother's, gave it to me, in case I was ever in urgent need. So what do you want to change into? Asked Annie. Why, a raven, of course, said Teddy. Teddy's crazy, thought Jack, but Annie didn't seem to think so. What a cool idea, she said. They're both crazy, thought Jack. 'Tis cool indeed, said Teddy. He held up the twig. Wait a minute, said Jack. Do you have a plan? I mean, what are you going to do once you change into a raven? I shall fly up to the mountain nest, said Teddy. Find the diamond, bring it back. Mission done. And what do we do? Asked Annie. Wait here for me. I'll be back as soon as I can, said Teddy. He climbed up onto the window ledge. His moon shadow stretched across the floor. Good luck, said Annie. Thank you, said Teddy. He raised the hazel twig. Stop, said Jack. Can we discuss your plan a little more? But Teddy was already sweeping his hazel twig through the air. He waved it from the top of his head to the tip of his toes. Teddy, stop, said Jack. But Teddy started his rhyme. Oh, hazel twig from hazel tree, make me a raven. Quick, he said. What's a word that rhymes with tree? Wait, said Jack. Doesn't rhyme with tree, said Teddy. 3, said Annie. Brilliant, said Teddy, and he started again. Oh, hazel twig of hazel tree, make me raven. 1, 2, 3. He waved the twig wildly. Careful, said Jack. He ducked and covered his head. Suddenly, he heard a roar. He felt a blast of heat, and then he heard a strange screech. Jack looked up. Teddy's hazel twig had fallen to the floor. Jack saw Teddy's shadow on the floor, but it was no longer the shadow of a boy. A chill went through Jack. A large raven was perched on the windowsill. Moonlight shone on its sleek blue-black wings, its shaggy throat feathers, and its thick neck and big beak. A second raven stood beneath the window. It looked like the first, only smaller. "Where's Annie?" Jack wondered wildly. He tried calling her name, but a terrible croak came from the back of his throat. Jack felt as if he were caught in a terrible nightmare. With jerky turns of his head, he peered down at his own body. His arms had turned into jet-black wings. His legs were spindly twigs that ended in 4 skinny long toes curved like claws. Teddy had accidentally changed them all into ravens. 1, 2, 3. Chapter 8. Spree, Spree. "Craw-jaw! Croak-me!" Teddy croaked. Teddy was speaking Raven now, but Jack understood him perfectly. Teddy had said, "Sorry, Jack and Annie." Annie stepped forward. She fluttered to the window ledge and perched with Teddy. "Quack, quack!" she croaked. "That's okay. This is fun." "Quark!" Jack squeaked. "Fun?" "Crow-jaw!" Annie croaked. "Craw-spree! Come on, Jack, let's fly." Annie and Teddy lifted off the ledge and disappeared into the moonlit mist. This can't be real, thought Jack. It can't be real. He looked at his feathers and his claws. He stretched out his right wing, then his left. He flapped them both. Before he knew what was happening, he lifted clumsily off the floor and landed on the window ledge. Jack saw Annie and Teddy flying around in the moonlight. They were zipping about like acrobats, diving and tumbling through the air. "Ah-mee-caw!" Jack croaked. "Annie, come back." "Spree, spree!" she called. "Fly, fly." "Ock-nee!" Annie rose from a dive. In one swoop, she glided up and sat beside Jack on the window ledge. "This is so much fun, Jack," she croaked. "Don't just sit here." Teddy flew by them. "I'm off to the mountaintop," he croaked. "Fly with me." "Come on, Jack," croaked Annie. She took off after Teddy, swooping through the cool night air. Oh, man. Fear clutched Jack's small raven heart. "I've definitely entered the tunnel of fear now," he thought. Merlin's words echoed in his mind. "Proceed onward with courage, and you will come out into the light." Jack looked out the window. He closed his eyes, and he jumped off the ledge. Jack was falling. He opened his eyes and flapped. His wings lifted him up, and he steadied himself. He hovered in the cold night air, and his eyes darted from left to right. He looked down, and he nearly fainted. The castle was far below. Jack flapped wildly, and he glided and flapped again. He glided, flapping and gliding. He climbed higher and higher into the sky, and finally Jack caught up with Annie and Teddy. They were circling in the air, waiting for him. "Roark!" Jack croaked. "Onward!" The 3 of them flew together through the moonlit sky, heading for the nest of the Raven King. Except for the swooshing of their wings, they made no noise. They soared up the side of the mountain, past hemlocks and tall pines. They flew through long, misty clouds. As they glided toward the mountain's peak, Teddy let out a low croak. Raven troops. Jack peered through the night. He couldn't believe his eyes. In white moonlight, he saw thousands of ravens roosting on rocky ledges. Jack, Annie, and Teddy kept flying. They soared above the troops, higher and higher toward the craggy peak of the mountain. When they reached the top, Teddy let out a squawk. "There it is," he croaked, "the nest of the Raven King." Chapter 9. A Piece of a Star. Teddy dropped down to the ledge. Jack and Annie followed. Hidden in the shadows, they crouched together, their dark feathers touching. They peered out at the moonlit lair of the Raven King. The king's giant nest was tucked under a rocky overhang. It was made of mud, twigs, and long strips of tree bark. 2 raven sentries were guarding its dark entrance. "Okay," Jack softly croaked. "What's the plan?" "Listen carefully," Teddy answered. In tiny squeaks and caws of raven whispers, he spelled out the plan. "I'll distract the guards. Annie, you keep watch at the entrance. Jack, you go into the nest and get the diamond. Then both of you head back to the castle and wait for me there." "What about the Raven King?" croaked Jack. "I sense he's not here," croaked Teddy. "I see no legions of bodyguards, but we should hurry before he returns." Jack had lots more questions about the plan, but before he could ask them, Teddy lifted off his perch and flew toward the entrance. "Let's go!" cried Annie, rising into the air. Jack was in a panic. He fluffed out his feathers and croaked, "Wait, you guys!" But it was too late. Teddy was already dive-bombing the Raven sentries. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" Two sentries left their watch and flew at Teddy with short shrieks. They chased him high into the sky. Annie zipped to the entrance of the nest. "Come on, Jack!" she croaked. Jack jumped off the ledge and flew onto the giant nest. Without thinking, he stepped through the entrance. He jerked his head from side to side. With his raven sight, he saw walls packed with dried mud, animal fur, vines, and sticks. The floor was covered with moss. Jack took a few steps forward and he stopped. No sign of the Raven King. He cocked his head from side to side, listening. All was quiet. Jack looked around the nest. One part of the nest's walls looked different. It was black and shiny, and he stepped toward it. He touched it with his beak, and it wasn't a wall at all. It was a curtain of feathers. Jack pushed through the feather curtain. Moonlight shone on a space behind it. Heaps of gold and silver coins glittering in the cool light. Pale pearls, emeralds, and rubies shone and sparkled. Amid all the treasures was a blue-white crystal. It was no bigger than a marble, but it shone with the light of its own, like a piece of a star. Jack knew at once that that stone was the diamond of destiny. His raven heart thumping, he walked to the diamond and nudged it with his beak. As the diamond tilted, it shot forth beams of brilliant light. "Jaw! Jaw!" Annie was calling to him from outside. "Cree! Crow! They're coming!" Jack carefully picked up the diamond with his beak. He felt a surge of strength and courage. Annie called another warning, but Jack wasn't afraid after all. He calmly walked out of the Raven King's nest and back into the night. More sentries had been alerted. They were flying toward the mountaintop, calling madly in alarm. "Croak! Croak! Croak!" Jack and Annie perched on the ledge. "Hurry, Jack, hurry!" she croaked. Annie flew off the mountain. Holding the diamond in his beak, Jack carefully flapped his wings and lifted into the air after her. As he and Annie sailed down from the mountaintop, a chorus of "Croaks!" split the night. Thousands of roosting ravens rose into the sky like giant black cloud. Their beating wings rumbled like thunder. A cloud of ravens covered the light of the moon. The night was completely black. "Spree! Spree!" croaked Annie. "Fly! Fly!" She and Jack glided down through the dark sky toward the Duke's castle. The wing beats of the raven army still thundered above the mountaintop. None of the ravens were chasing them. "They don't know what to do without their king," Jack thought. He wondered where their king was, but with the diamond of destiny in his beak, he felt no fear. The farther Jack and Annie flew from the mountain, the more distant became the sound of the raven soldier's wings. The Duke's castle came into sight. Jack saw the light of Teddy's lantern in the nursery, but he didn't want to stop flying just yet. Instead, he swooped over the castle, over the courtyard, the gatehouse and the bridge, over the candlelit cottages and the oak forest, and Annie flew with him. Finally, they both glided smoothly back to the castle and landed on the window ledge of the nursery. The diamond of destiny was safe. We're going to stop there, boys and girls. Tomorrow we will read 10 and 11, and on Friday we will read 12 and 13, and that will finish this Merlin mission, Haunted Castle on Hallows Eve. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.